Welcome back to Julie's Wreath Boutique. Today we're going to make this patriotic flower with mesh that I've had on hand for quite some time. I originally purchased it from the Wreath shop and I do know that they have some of it in stock. So make sure you check out the link in my description box below. Check out Trendy Tree as well because I believe that they may have some. Now I do want to tell you, you don't have to use the exact mesh that I'm using. You can use a deco mesh, a poly burlap. Let your imagination go wild with this and just make something beautiful. So let's get started. So let's talk about what wreath forms you can use for this wreath. All of these forms you can use. You could use a 10-inch, a 12-inch, or an 8-inch. The only difference is that you have more sections in a 12-inch so that you will have more petals. You have less sections, and when I talk about the section, this is a section here from the crossbar to the crossbar, that's a section, okay? So if you use an 8-inch wreath form, it's going to be less petals. Now, the only difference between a 10-inch and a 12-inch is that you may need to have a bigger center. So be prepared to make a bigger center. And the same thing with the 8-inch, you might be prepared to use a smaller center, but that's not always necessary. So let's get started with the mesh. For this project, I'm using something called a Jute poly mesh. If you have a deco mesh in a red and white, I know they sell Patriotic deco meshes and they sell Patriotic poly burlaps, but this is what I had on hand, so this is what I want to use. I do think that I got this from the Wreath shop, and I have that link down below, but I'm sure Trendy Tree might have some as well. So I'm going to cut this with my rotary cutter, and I'm just going to try to do my best to cut in between the lines of the mesh. Now this roll is a 10.5-inch roll, so I typically try to do my best to cut it at 10.5 inches. You don't have to be quite precise, and as you can see, that cut is a little kind of goes a little wavy just because I try to stay within the lines of the mesh. So I'm going to cut out all of this red and white mesh, and I'm going to cut out all the blue mesh, and we'll be back. Okay, so the first step I did was I took a 10-inch wreath frame and I cut out some plastic canvas. This is called the 5 mesh. As you can see, the holes or the squares are a little bit bigger, and you can purchase this from consumercrafts.com or find it at like Joann's or even Hobby Lobby. The next thing I did was I just simply made the circle around this inner wreath frame, and I attached it with the zip ties. So let's talk about our petal and how we're going to put that first layer of petals on. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this type of a petal, and I've showed you how to do this before, but we're going to do this on the outer ring, but we're not necessarily going to do it on the next ring. So what we're going to work with is we have ring 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to work on ring 2. So we're not going to worry about the brackets. We're simply going to put 2 of these petals on the inside of the first section here. So what we're going to do is you're going to take one of your pre-cut mesh pieces, and the reason why I did not use a wood burner was because the wood burner does not like to cut through that white part. So I just used the rotary cutter, and I will spray this wreath with like a Mod Podge matte spray or a Rust-Oleum clear acrylic spray at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to meet in the middle. We're going to gather, okay, and I'm going to take my petal and I'm going to put a clip right on it. I'm going to take a blue one, and again, we're going to do the same thing. The finished side is on the bottom, the finished side is on the top. We're going to meet in the middle, and we are just going to gather. So at this point, I want to be able to have this, I want the mesh to lay crisscross like that. And then we are going to take it and we are going to pull it up, okay? So once we pull it up, we kind of have the red, white, and blue look, okay? So we've got blue, red, or you can do it whichever way you want. Now, you can take a zip tie. Let me show you here. This likes to stick to other things. You can take a zip tie and go ahead and attach it like I did here. Or you can just simply hold on to this, take your zip tie, put it underneath that second bar right there. Do you see what I'm doing? and we're just going to attach it to the frame. All right, so let's do one more just like that. All right, so we're going to take our red, meet in the middle, gather, and put a clip. Take a blue, meet in the middle, gather, and now we're going to put them together. So here's the thing. I want to make sure that these are assembled the right way. I want the order to go blue, red, blue, and so forth. So just make sure that when you're putting them together, so now I'm going to bring them up, that you have that same pattern. Now, if you were using like all the same color here, you wouldn't need to do that. But that's what we're going to do here. So, all right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to repeat all of these steps, and I'm going to put 2 sections here, 2 and 2. Okay, so I have the first set of petals all the way around. I think it looks really pretty. So the first row, you're going to use 10 cuts of the blue and 10 cuts of the red, which would make 20 petals for the first row. The second row, we're going to hopefully just do 15. We're just going to go in between each of the spaces here, and we're going to just use the blue because I want to variegate the colors. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a zip tie right here. So it goes underneath that cross bracket and the third wire frame. And you're just going to make sure the finish is at the bottom, finish is at the top, meet in the middle, and you're just going to layer one over the top of the other one. I'm just going to go and I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to put one petal here and one here. So, and if I do this correctly, I think that's only 10 petals. So then you wouldn't use a whole roll of the blue, and same thing with the red. So, but we will see how that works. But I wanted to do a patriotic flower because I want to make sure that I have them to offer to my customers. I do sell all of my wreaths, and I do have a website, and I do sell them on Etsy. So make sure to check out the description box below and you will find all the links. And make sure you're following me on social media too, on Facebook and Instagram and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to put another one now that we're to that wire, that cross bracket. Reach one here. Alrighty. So I'm just going to keep doing the same process over and over, and I'll be back. So that way we will have 10 petals on the second row. Okay, so we have this second layer finished. So now we're going to focus on the middle of this wreath. We're going to do this petal technique. It's kind of a double layered petal. You have a back petal and you have a front petal. So let me show you how to do that. I've done that in a different wreath, and I think I called it a winter wreath. But, and we did that with poly burlap, and this can be done with poly burlap. You don't have to limit yourself with just the exact mesh I use. This is just what I had on hand. I do believe I probably bought this a long time ago, so I don't know if there's the availability of the exact mesh, but be creative. Use what you have. If you have deco mesh, maybe some poly burlap, intertwine the two, mix the textures of it, and just use what you can find right now, because I do know that it's a little bit harder to find mesh. So what I want to do is I want to take and just make our simple petal here. We just are going to flip it over, and this is the same petal that we used for the blue. So I'm going to put a clip in it right here. I'm going to put it to the side. And then I'm going to take another piece of the mesh, but this time I want the finished sides on the right and left, not the top and bottom. So I'm going to just take it and we're going to form a triangle. And then we're just going to make, this is the Daisy petal by Dean Michael Designs. And we're just going to make that petal, okay? So that kind of makes a really nice, simple, single petal. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer these petals together. And what this does, it just kind of gives us a little bit of a different look, kind of a fuller look. And it also helps that the mesh we're using isn't as dark as like maybe the poly burlap, and you can see through it, and you want to be able to hide all of this that's on your wreath. So we're just going to clip that. So now I'm going to just take and figure out, okay, so where do we want to put our petal? I want them to be able to see the blue, and I want them to just kind of be layered. So in order to do that, we're going to do about 2 inches into this frame. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball it here, and I'm going to put my 8-inch zip tie in, and then I'm just going to layer it. Okay. And then we'll put another zip tie next to it. Again, we're about 2 inches in. And I already have some of these petals made up. So I'm just going to keep adding these until we go all the way around. And what I like about this technique of just combining these 2 petals is I like for these edges to meet, these single petals to meet. So it just kind of defines it a little bit more. So I'm going to go all the way around, and then I'll be right back. So now we're going to work on the middle of this wreath. We're going to do kind of a technique that we've done before, but with different roping here. I have not used this braiding on this like shaved foam that I use from the Dollar Tree. So let me show you how we get this started. We take a Dollar Tree foam circle. These are like 5 inches, roughly around 5 inches in diameter. They come in a 2-pack for $1. They're a great value, and these work really well. What you're going to do is you're going to take a knife, and you're going to be very careful with this because I don't want you to cut yourself. And you're just going to like cut off the edges, and you're just going to go all the way around. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way around because it gets really loud. Okay, so then you're going to see how that takes the edge off of the sharp edge. Then you're going to take a sanding block, and you're just going to sand it until you get a smoother, rounded, more real looking of a flower center, and you don't have that hard edge. So I get rid of that hard edge altogether. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to attach the cording here, or the roping, or the braiding, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to start in the middle, and I've done these before with you guys with this technique, but we're doing it different with this. You're just going to take your glue, and you're going to be really careful because hot glue is, of course, really hot. So what I like to do is I like to have some pins here in case I want to use them, if they're helpful. Sometimes I use them, sometimes I don't. So we're just going to place it in the middle, the best that we can get here. I'm going to try to put 1 pin through here at a side. I don't know. Sometimes it wants to work and sometimes it doesn't, okay? So I'm going to just push that down. Okay, these are not my 1-inch needles there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue over top of that blue here. Let me put this up here. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on top because we're going to go over that edge. And that's going to be the start of the center for our flower. All right. So we're just going to wrap it around. Have you ever made a flower wreath? If you've ever made one, tell me in the comments. If you haven't, are you afraid to start one? Is it a little intimidating? Because I assure you, this is not hard to do. It does take some time, but I think you should try it. It's really easy to do. All right, so I'm going to keep going. And this wreath that we're making, so you're just going to keep doing this process of putting glue, holding it down, and then letting it dry and going around and around. And so what we'll do is we'll go all the way around, and we'll cover this white, and we'll end it on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, and I'm going to keep doing the same process. You put a little bit of glue like this. I'm going to put some more. Hold on. And then we just hold it, okay? It's just, that's patience. This is patience. Okay, so as you can see, I've went around it, and there's always some glue on it. You'll be able to see a little bit of the white through here, but because we're going to sink this down in the flour, you shouldn't be able to see that. And you could always take a knife and carve that off. I did add a few little pens here just to kind of anchor it in. So what I do is I just take the remaining cording, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue here. I'm going to lay the cording over top of that glue, and then I'll take some of these pens and go right down through that cording. And these are T pens. All of my supplies you can find in my Amazon affiliate shop. I always have the link in the description box below. But I get a lot of this stuff from Amazon, like the mat and the glue gun and the wire cutters and the pens. Just so many things you can get there. Okay, so now that that's all in, we're going to just take a piece of wire, and this is like, oh, I want to say this is a 20 gauge or 22, so it's pretty thick. I find it at Walmart for like 97 cents for a nice pack of 20. It's really a good deal. So what I want to show you is I use these floral pens, and they're actually, let me show you, they're actually this size. They're like almost like 1.5 inches, and I buy them again from Amazon. And what I do is I just cut off about half of it. I just do it like this so that the things don't go flying, so that it makes it shorter. So what I do is then I just will put that in the middle here. Put about 3 or 4 of them. Okay, so then I'm going to put some more glue over top of that, and then I just take a piece of felt. I need to add some glue to my glue gun. All right. And then I go over top of where we pinned it, and then for safety and just to make sure it's going to hold down, I'm going to add 4 more pens, and it's going to go through that glue, and it's going to hold really nicely. So I'm going to finish this up, and we'll be ready to add it to our flower. So at this point, the whole wreath is put together except for the middle. This would be a really good time to go spray it with either a Rust-Oleum clear acrylic matte spray or the Mod Podge matte spray. And what that will do is it won't eliminate the frays, because we do have some frays here. We didn't use a wood burner, but it will help. So that's what I would recommend. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the middle in this, but before we do that, let's talk about how many petals we needed. So for the first layer, we needed 10 each. We needed 10 red and 10 blue. So, and then the next layer, we needed 10 blue. So total in this wreath, for a 10-inch wreath frame, I used 20 blue petals. Now, if you were doing a 12-inch, I would think that you would probably need to do more like 24 to 28 petals of the blue. And if you are doing an 8-inch, I would suggest probably at least 16 petals. So as for the red, you have 10 here, and then in the center we used 14 total. So again, that's 24 petals. So again, you're going to add some if you do for the 12, and those are just guesstimates. So I'm not really sure exactly how much you'll use, but 1 roll of each should do for a 12-inch. So let's put the middle in, and I've given this time to dry, and I do like to use the Gorilla glue sticks just because I feel like it does better in all temperatures for this type of thing. So I'm just going to put the wires down through that plastic canvas mesh. I'm going to really pull this really good because I want it to just kind of go right down deep into the petals there, because I don't want to see that white foam. So we're just going to really get it really good. So you're just going to do that and make sure it's nice and tight. I'm going to take a piece of felt and just put it on the back, and it's really easy to do that, but that is your finished wreath. And you're just going to go through here, and you're just going to, you know, just mess with your, or arrange, not mess is not a good word to use, but I think that turned out really pretty. I wanted to use this mesh. Like I said, I've had this mesh for quite a while, and this was just a good opportunity to use it. I'll be selling this in my Etsy shop, and I think I can make at least one more of these. So I hope you enjoyed this wreath. It's a little bit different. The petals, we layered different types of petals here. And if you're on Facebook and you want to join a wreath group or a crafting group, join my group, Wreath Creators and More. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook. I'd appreciate it. And if you made it this far into the video, since it's a patriotic wreath, let's leave a patriotic flag. So if you're in a different country, leave me the country, your flag's country, your flag for your country. I know words can be difficult sometimes, but I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we will see you next time on Julie's Wreath Boutique. Bye.